My boss fired me to save his $50,000 bonus, so I triggered a federal Department of Labor audit that cost him millions. I worked as a senior account executive for a logistics company in Chicago. The job was brutal, but the commission structure was lucrative. My base salary was low, but I was promised a 10% commission on all annual contracts closed. I spent the entire year grinding, sleeping in airports, and missing my kids' soccer games. By December, I had closed $2 million in new business. That meant my year-end commission check was going to be $200,000. My boss was a regional manager named Dave. Dave was the kind of guy who leased a Porsche he couldn't afford and talked constantly about hustle culture. On December 28th, 3 days before the fiscal year closed and my commission was legally due, Dave called me into his office. He didn't look me in the eye. He handed me a pink slip. "We're letting you go, OP. It's a restructuring. Your position is being eliminated effective immediately." I was stunned. "What about my commission?" I asked. "I closed $2 million. That's $200,000 you owe me." Dave smiled a greasy little smile. "Read your contract, OP. Commissions are paid to active employees only. Since you are no longer active as of today, that money stays with the company." He fired me specifically to steal my commission. By wiping my $200,000 off the books, his department's profitability spiked, ensuring he would trigger his own $50,000 performance bonus. I walked out of the building with a box of my things, shaking with rage. I called an employment lawyer, but he told me that the active employee clause is notoriously hard to fight in court without spending years in litigation. But I knew something about Dave's operation that the lawyers didn't. I knew how he kept his costs so low. Dave was obsessed with cutting corners. To keep his budget lean, he had classified the entire warehouse staff, about 50 guys, as independent contractors, 1099s, instead of employees, W-2s. He made them wear uniforms, set their specific hours, and controlled exactly how they did their jobs. Under federal law, specifically the Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, that makes them employees. By misclassifying them, he was avoiding paying payroll taxes, health insurance, and most importantly, overtime. These guys worked 60 hours a week and got paid straight time. That is wage theft. I didn't sue Dave for my commission. I decided to burn his entire kingdom down. I went to the website of the U.S. Department of Labor, the Wage and Hour Division. I filed a third-party complaint alleging systematic worker misclassification and overtime violations. I provided the names of the warehouse staff, their schedules, and copies of the independent contractor agreements Dave forced them to sign. The DOL doesn't mess around. They don't just send a letter, they send a team. 2 months later, federal auditors raided the office. They interviewed every single warehouse worker. They seized the payroll records for the last 3 years. They determined that Dave had illegally misclassified 55 employees. The penalties were astronomical. First, the company was ordered to pay back wages for all the unpaid overtime for 3 years. That totaled $1.2 million. Second, the DOL imposed liquidated damages, essentially a penalty equal to the back wages, another $1.2 million. Third, the IRS got involved because of the unpaid payroll taxes. The fines for tax fraud are brutal. The total cost of the company was over $4 million. Corporate headquarters flew in from New York. They were looking for a scapegoat. When they reviewed the audit findings and saw that the misclassification was Dave's cost-saving initiative, they didn't just fire him, they sued him for breach of fiduciary duty to try and recover some of the losses. Dave lost his job, his bonus, and likely his Porsche. And the cherry on top, because the audit proved that the company had a pattern of firing people to avoid payouts, corporate reached out to me privately. They offered me a settlement to sign and walk away. The settlement was for $250,000, my original commission, plus a little extra for my trouble. Dave tried to save $50,000 for himself and ended up costing the company $4 million. He forgot the golden rule of business. You don't step over a dollar to pick up a dime, and you never screw over the guy who knows where the bodies are buried.